Welcome to another episode of Front Porch Friday. This is a series about third places in women's spaces. Episode 1 explores how elite white women claimed tea rooms as their third place to relax and to socialize with their friends. You might think of a tea room as an extension of the front parlor, which was another space largely reserved for women. Tea rooms offered freedom, but they were still rather exclusive. This episode explores the rise of lunch counters and cafeterias in the 1920s, where different classes and genders mingled. First, I'd like to share some background information. In the late 19th and 20th centuries, the U.S. experienced several waves of immigration before the onset of the First World War. These immigrants hailed primarily from Southern and Eastern Europe. Native-born Americans did not accept them as readily as the Northern European immigrants. They spoke unfamiliar foreign languages, ate strange foods, and practiced Catholicism. A number of these immigrants started their own ethnic cafes. These establishments were links to their homelands, but they also represented the exotic to white native-born Americans. During the 1920s, more businesses began to apply time management techniques. Labor-saving devices were also in high demand. Food consumption reflects this trend toward automation as well. Some automated lunch counters were advertised as early as 1896. An article in Scientific American described an apparatus similar to a vending machine. A customer would insert a coin into a slot to obtain food or beverages. The technology involved in this futuristic lunch counter included nickel and glass tanks, hot water baths, silver tubing, clockwork mechanisms, and revolving trays. A leisurely lunch seemed out of the question for most rank-and-file workers in the 1920s. Time was money, and quickness and efficiency were the watchwords of this decade. The labor shortage led to opportunities for women, however. They began to enter the workforce in larger numbers, filling primarily clerical positions. The typical woman clerk was in her 20s, white and unmarried. Here are some statistics for you. In 1910, 19.6% of the labor force were women. 8.9% of all women were employed in clerical positions. By 1920, 20.2% of the labor force were women, and 19.2% of all women workers were employed in clerical occupations. The emergence of new technologies, such as the dictaphone, meant that corporations could save money by hiring women who earned less than men. Many women found clerical work attractive, however, because it offered better job security, higher pay, and more opportunities for promotion than other types of positions. Because of the labor shortage, companies were interested in preventing turnover. One of the ways they sought to increase employee satisfaction was by offering amenities and other services, including lunchrooms or cafeterias. Some companies even employed a dietitian or physician to oversee this service. Corporations reasoned that healthy employees would be more productive. In fact, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York hired Dr. Mary Crawford, a Kappa from Cornell, to administer physicals to the bank employees and to supervise the cafeteria. Providing this amenity was expensive. Corporations had to furnish a space and provide decor, furniture, serving and kitchen equipment. Many businesses could not afford these expenses, so employees had to search for a quick meal. The lunch counter, or quick lunch as it was known back then, fulfilled that need. Scientific management principles also influenced these businesses. To save money, food preparation was often handled off-site, for example. According to historian Angela Jill Cooley, a lunch counter is a distinctly urban space that allows a server to wait on many individual customers quickly and efficiently. Like the old-fashioned tea rooms, they could be found in department stores, but in five and dimes and pharmacies as well. Customers typically sat on stools alongside a bar or around a U-shaped counter. The placement of seats meant that all customers were treated equally, theoretically. The food was simple and the prices economical. Customers could order breakfast cereal, such as cornflakes or grape nuts, at any time of the day. Coffee, eggs, and sandwiches were staples. A lunch counter might also feature a display case with enticing desserts. Ice cream was also on the menu, and as we'll see later, pairings with fruit were popular. Lunch counters generally prohibited alcohol to remain respectable. Women made their mark in this business too. There are 4 women entrepreneurs that I'd like to mention. First is Amanda Gray. She was the first African American woman to own and operate a pharmacy in Washington, D.C. When she and her husband, Arthur Gray, moved to the capital, Amanda studied at Howard University to earn a pharmacy degree. And then she later opened her own drugstore, Fountain Pharmacy, in the True Reformer building. Second, Cora Dow was one of the first women to graduate from the Cincinnati School of Pharmacy in 1888. She eventually opened a chain of 11 drugstores in the 19-teens. For comparison's sake, Walgreens only had 9 stores at that time. A focal point of Dow's stores was the soda fountain. Cora acquired an ice cream plant to ensure the quality of the ice cream served at her stores. By 1910, she was paying $2,000 a month just for sweet cream alone. Finally, the cafeteria owned and operated by Lenore Richards and Nola Treat reflected the influences of home economics and institutional management. Treat and Richards were former home economics professors who ventured into restaurant management at an opportune time. Restaurant management was just beginning to join the list of respectable professions for women in the 19-teens and 1920s. Their cafeteria was situated in the business district of downtown Minneapolis. It was a convenient destination for workers on their lunch break. Treat and Richards designed their space to evoke a cozy atmosphere with maple furniture, pewter, and china. The meat and vegetables were prepared in small batches to remain fresh. The Richards Treat cafeteria closed in 1957 after many successful years. What a shift from the opulence of the tea rooms of the 1890s, but one thing remained the same for both types of establishments, and that was that ice cream and other types of desserts were part of the menu. Americans' consumption of sugar continued to grow in the 1920s. Investors poured funds into this industry by expanding their plants in Cuba, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and the Philippines after the war. Between 1920 and 1930, the quantity of refined sugar available in the United States increased from 85 to 110 pounds per capita. Advertisers portrayed sugar consumption as wholesome and nutritious to increase markets. Their claims were backed by nutrition science, which identified sugar as a simple carbohydrate or a easy source of energy. Some nutritional scientists argued that the desire for sugar, for sweetness, was natural because children were introduced to it through breast milk. One of the main vehicles of sugar consumption was ice cream. The production of ice cream originated in Europe and Asia, where it had been made for hundreds of years. It was considered a luxury because of the ingredients and labor involved. The invention of the hand crank freezer in the 1840s made the dessert more accessible to Americans, but it was still rare in the United States before 1900. Scholars estimate nationwide production of ice cream totaled only 5 million gallons in 1899, but by 1919 it had increased to 150 million gallons. Ice cream parlors proliferated alongside this increase. For young women, especially those newly arrived from rural communities, the ice cream parlor represented a kind of paradise. It was a space where they could move uninhibited yet remain respectable. The transitional nature of the 1920s is one of the reasons I chose the Gibson Girl Sundae as the featured dessert for Front Porch Friday. The Gibson Girl was the most famous representation of the new woman. The new woman of the 1890s was young, educated, and active, and her image was largely the result of Charles Dana Gibson's illustrations. They remained the ideal for feminine beauty until the First World War. And during the war, Gibson worked for America's first propaganda bureau, the Committee on Public Information. He oversaw the division of pictorial publicity and later became the editor of Life magazine. In addition to the Gibson Girl Sundae, he also had a cocktail named after him. Anecdotes claim he preferred to order gin martinis with a pickled onion garnish. The Gibson Girl Sundae definitely sounds more appealing to me, even though pineapple isn't my first choice for an ice cream topping. I mentioned in a behind the scenes video earlier that pineapple was becoming increasingly popular in the United States because of James Dole's expansion of the Hawaiian Pineapple Company. In 1922, he purchased the Hawaiian island of Lanai and started a pineapple plantation. The darker side of this history is that Americans benefited from Dole's exploitation of his foreign workers. During this decade, pineapple found its way into many dishes besides ice cream. Cooks experimented by adding it to cakes, sherbet, and sandwiches. The energy and optimism of the 1920s fizzled with the stock market crash of 1929. But the end of Prohibition saw women breaking into a new space, the bar. So the final episode in this summer series will explore how women started normalizing alcohol consumption in public. And for your bonus feature for this episode, the Stewart House's mascot Harry turns 4 at the end of July. So watch him devour his birthday, or watch him. The Stewart House's mascot Harry turns 4 at the end of July. Watch him celebrate his birthday by devouring a special peanut butter apple cake. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you in the final episode on third places and women's spaces.